Good day everyone, we are the Utilitarianism Ethics Group, and today we will discussing Utilitarianism Ethics, also known as the greatest happiness principle, which focuses on choosing actions that create the greatest benefit for the greatest number of people. Let us now begin for discussion. At the end of this presentation, we aim to achieve the following objectives. First, to clearly understand what Utilitarianism Ethics is and what it means in simple terms. Second, to identify philosophers behind this theory and understanding their contributions. Third, to explain the main concept of utilitarianism and how it works in decision-making. And lastly, to apply this theory to real-life situations, especially ethical dilemmas that we may encounter as students. Through these objectives, mas magiging clear sa atin kung paano ginagamit yung utilitarianism in evaluating what is right or wrong based on consequences and outcomes. So what exactly is utilitarianism? Utilitarianism is classical ethical theory that says that morally right action is the one that produces the greatest happiness, benefit, or good for the greatest number of people. In simple explanation, ang basihan ng pagiging right or wrong ng isang action is not really the intention, but the outcome or consequences of that action. Meaning, kung may choice ka between two actions, ang pipili ng utilitarianism is yung option na makapagbibigay ng mas maraming happiness or benefit sa maraming tao. For example, if a decision helps the majority of people but may konting disadvantage sa iba, utilitarianism is still considered it morally right as long as the overall result is positive. That is why the theory is called greatest happiness principle, because its main focus is maximizing happiness and minimizing suffering for everyone involved. Now let's talk about where utilitarianism came from. Utilitarianism originated in England during 18th and 19th centuries. It was developed and popularized by philosopher Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill. Before this theory, many ethical ideas focus more on rules, laws, or intention. But Bentham and Mill introduced a different perspective na instead of focusing only on rules, we should also look at the consequences of actions. Jeremy Bentham was the only person formally introduced the idea that happiness and pleasure should be main standard of morality. He believed that humans naturally seek pleasure and avoid pain. So ethical decisions should aim to maximize pleasure and minimize suffering. Later on, John Stuart Mill expanded this idea, explaining that not all pleasure are the same. He emphasized that higher intellectual and moral pleasure are more valuable than basic physical pleasure. Because of their ideas, utilitarianism became one of the most influential ethical theories in philosophy and continues to be studied and applied in modern decision-making today. So why utilitarianism is still important today? Even in modern society, many decisions are still based on what benefits the majority of people. Utilitarianism helps us evaluate actions by looking at their overall consequence. In real life, especially in government decisions, healthcare, and technology, people often have to choose between different options, and utilitarianism provides a guide by asking which option will create the greatest good for the greatest number. For example, in healthcare, doctors or hospitals sometimes prioritize treatments that can save more lives. In technology, companies design systems that aim to improve user experience for the majority of users. Even as students, we can apply this when making decisions that affect our group, our class, or even our school community. That is why utilitarianism remains very relevant today. It helps us think not just about ourselves, but about the overall impact of our decision on other people.
Choose the action that gives the most happiness to the most person. In short, if an action helps many people and create more good than harm, then it is considered the right thing to do. This ethical theory was introduced by Jeremy Bentham. Bentham believed that people naturally seek happiness and avoid pain or suffering. According to him, when making decisions, we should not only think about ourselves, but also how action affect other people. So let's some example. Imagine in your class has a budget. You can either use it buy snack for a few students or buy additional electric fan for the whole classroom. Of course, buying fan would be better decision because more students will be benefit and become more comfortable during the class. Now let's move on to another philosopher who improved this theory was John Stuart Mill. Mill agreed that happiness is important, but he explained that not all happiness is the same. For him, meaningful happiness, such as learning new things, improve ourselves, or spending time with our loved ones, this is better than temporary happiness. It is just different between studying hard for our future versus the happiness of canceling alarm and sleeping the whole day. One gives short happiness while the other give long-term benefit. Now let's discuss the main idea of utilitarian ethics. First, the greatest happiness principle. This principle states that an action is morally right if it is created the greatest happiness for the greatest number of people. For example, if a school activity benefits the entire class instead of a small group, then it is considered a better decision because it's more people behind from it. The second is consequence-based ethics. To simplify that, utilitarianism focus on the result of an action rather than intention behind on it. For example, participating in community cleanup drive. This is considered a good work because it is help create a cleaner environment for everyone. Another important concept is the pleasure and pain principle. Bentham explained that humans naturally want pleasure and avoid pain. Therefore, action that reduce suffering, increase happiness are considered moral action. For example, donating food to a family in need, help lessen hunger, and bring happiness to many people. One of the famous line utilitarianism is the greatest God for the greatest number. This means decision should benefit the majority of people. For example, strict traffic rules may sometimes feel inconvenient, especially when you are already late. But this will help to prevent accident and protect many lives.
Here's a sample situation. Nowadays, academic dishonesty has become more common in school and universities. It is not just about copying answers anymore because it also includes plagiarism and over-reliance on AI tools to complete requirements. According to the research, many students end up doing this because of stress, pressure to get high grades, exhaustion, and lack of motivation. When students feel overwhelmed or think the assignment have little value, they become more tempted to take shortcuts. Even if it seems like a small issue, it still affects learning, fairness, and credibility of the education system. What is the issue involved in this situation? The main ethical issue here is the conflict between honesty and personal gain. Some students believe cheating is acceptable as long as it helps them pass or achieve better grades. However, while one student may benefit, it becomes unfair to those who work honestly and put in real effort. Cheating also weakens trust in the value of grades, achievements, and education itself. How utilitarianism solves it? Utilitarianism focuses on the action that creates the best outcome for the majority of people. From this perspective, cheating is discouraged because even if it benefits one student temporarily, it can negatively affect many others in the long run. This includes students, teachers, and even future employers who expect graduates to have real knowledge and skills. Promoting academic honesty and responsible use of AI tools can create a better learning environment for everyone. Which option creates the greatest good for the greatest number? The best option is to promote academic honesty while also supporting students through better teaching methods and guidance. This benefits not only the students but also teachers, schools, and society because it helps produce competent and qualified professionals in the future.
The advantage of utilitarianism ethics is the practical for real-world decisions. It can give a clear method, compare outcome, and seek the option that creates the most overall benefits. And the disadvantage of utilitarianism ethics was the risk ignoring minority right. If the majority benefits, the theory can justify sacrificing the interests of a smaller group. This creates a conflict with ideas of individual rights and fairness. What it says, utilitarian works well when you need a practical outcome-based way to make big decisions that affect a lot of people. It forces you to look at the actual consequences and choose the option that maximizes overall benefits. That's why it's useful for policy, economics, and public health. And the catch? Because it judges action only by aggregated outcome. It can overlook individual rights and struggle to measure some things, subjective like happiness without safe words that focus on the majority can justify action that norms, minorities, or enable misuse. So the analysis is utilitarianism is a strong tool for a large-scale, measurable decision, but without stand-alone, it's most reliable when paired with protection for individual rights and clear standards for evaluating well-being.
To conclude, utilitarianism is an ethical theory that focuses on achieving the greatest happiness for the greatest number of people. Unlike other ethical theories na mas nakapokus sa rules or intentions, ang utilitarianism ay nag-evaluate ng action based on their consequences and overall benefits. In simple terms, ang isang action ay considered morality right kung mas marami tayong magagawang good kaysa harm para sa majority. As we discussed earlier, relevant pa rin ang utilitarianism hanggang ngayon because it helps guide ethical decision making sa iba't ibang areas tulad ng education, government, healthcare, business at technology. Through this theory, natuto tayong isipin na hindi lang personal benefit kundi pati epekto ng ating actions sa buhay ng tao at sa society. Although may limitation ng utilitarianism tulad ng difficulty sa pagme-measure ng happiness at possibility na ma-overlook ang minority rights, patuloy pa rin itong nakaka-impluwensya sa paraan kung paano natin na-evaluate ang moral choices at social responsibility. Overall, utilitarianism reminds us na ang ethical decision making should aim to promote greater well-being and create positive outcomes for as many people as possible. Thank you, and that concludes our presentation.